To the final class for agriculture and its environment. In this lesson, we are just going to be looking at these three major aspects. So, we're going to be looking at causes and impact of agriculture, majorly causes and impact of soil erosion. We look at managing soil erosion and also sustainable agriculture. So, syllabus content, as usual, you're expected to pause and go through it. But I need you to notice something is in environmental management, most of the content guide here is what we're going to cover. Majorly is just to describe them. But if you can remember all this content here, you should be able to answer some set of questions with ease. See, describe the causes of soil erosion, and the causes we'll look at is removal of natural vegetation, water and wind erosion, loss of habitat, describe the impact. So loss of habitat should be an impact, desertification will be an impact, silting of rivers, displacement of people, malnutrition and famine is an impact of soil erosion. So it's just simple. You can read through it. So method used to manage soil erosion: terracing, contour ploughing, bunds, windbreaks, cover, maintaining vegetation cover, addition of organic matter to improve soil structure, planting, mixed crop, intercropping, and crop rotation. So it's just simple within those ranges. So quickly, let's just start. Causes of soil erosion. First cause we'll be looking at is removal of vegetation, natural vegetation. So no more roots to bind the soil together if you remove the natural vegetation, or slow down the torrent of water. So you can have things like flash flooding and rainwater runoff pick the soil and carry it away. Another cause of soil erosion is over-cultivation. That has to do with ploughing breaks the soil into smaller and lighter particles. Over-cultivation, ploughing breaks the soil into smaller and lighter particles. Now, these are more easily carried away by what? Wind. Now, overgrazing, livestock reduces the vegetation to nearly ground level. So sometimes leaving no root to hold the soil. So animal trampling down the plant and their hoof compact the ground. So wind erosion. Now deforestation due to need for space, overgrazing, increase in development of arable crops, increases the chance of soil getting eroded by wind. So water erosion, heavy rainfall carry the soil particles away. Now excess runoff water that can't be absorbed by soil transports the soil from the area. Now, so soil compaction reduce the rate of infiltration. If you don't know what infiltration is, you should look at our topic on water and its environment, where we talk about water and the hydrological cycle. Gully erosion, so volume of water erode local soil further, so it forms deeper and deeper crevices. Now, impact of soil erosion. What is the impact of soil erosion? One, the topsoil is removed. That's an impact. Where the most productive layers is absent, so subsoil lack nutrients and air spaces. Now, organisms living in the topsoil lose their habitat if the soil has been washed away. Now, which now have an impact on the entire ecosystem. Silting up of water courses. So flooding occur as water bodies can't hold excess water. So space taken up by silt. So once the soil is being washed away, it is deposited within a river course. So once it's deposited into the river course, you find out that the depth of the river, if this is how deep the water is, it will reduce because the deposition of this water will tend to fill up the course. So that's silting of the water course. Silt deposit can form a lagoon, so providing breeding ground for mosquitoes. So silt affect the quality and availability of water for drinking also. Aquatic organisms are buried under the silted layers. Now, therefore, preventing light from reaching the underwater plant, low oxygen level in the ecosystem, therefore no photosynthesis will take place. Another impact, it can lead to desertification. Now, the process by which fertile land becomes a desert, because you've washed away the fertile soil, which is the topsoil, and what is left have less air spaces and less nutrients, so plants will not grow properly, therefore leading to desertification. So several droughts lead to migration of the whole community, and risks of famine and malnutrition, leading to lesser food source. These are impact of um, soil erosion. So managing soil erosion, which is the aspect I want to look at really deep. So one of the job method, as we looked at earlier in the syllabus content, is terracing. Now, because people normally get confused with terracing and contour ploughing, but let's try and see how we'll be able to explain them. And also, in questions related to this terracing and contour ploughing in IGCSE, what they'll do is they'll give you a picture and they'll expect you to identify it and also describe how it helps to control soil erosion. So, terracing prevents this erosion of soil by rainwater on steep slopes. Now, this is a steep slope. And the steeper the slope, the higher the rate of runoff. That means the steeper the slope, the faster the water will move down. And because the water will move down faster, that means it has more hydrological energy, it has more force. So as a result of that, you find out that it can easily wash away the soil particles that are found there because of how fast the water is moving. Now, when you cultivate around a slope, it helps to prevent soil erosion. How? In natural slope, this is a natural slope now. Water runs down, increasing in speed and volume, carrying soil in the runoff in a natural slope. Then now, when you have in a terrace slope, like what we have here beneath it, you find out that the land cut into flat surface or steps. So you see the land is a step, so you can walk, climb it like a step because it has been cut into flat surfaces. Now this will help to reduce the slope, which therefore reduce the speed of the water moving down, of surface runoff. So soil will usually be held back by the individual terrace, often used for cultivation of rice. So you see, once you convert this steep slope into step-like slope like this is known as a terrace. So instead of the water to move freely down and thereby increasing the rate of soil and water runoff and soil runoff, washing away of the soil erosion. So this will slow the water moving down, and the soil will usually be accumulated at these individual slopes here, which is now suitable for cultivation of rice. So next, look at contour ploughing. Now, I need you to let me go back. Look at this. This is in a step. That's terrace. But contour ploughing, cultivating along the contour lines, is not a step. You can see this is high, this is down, this is high, this is down, this is high, this is down. So just take note of this basic difference between the two, please. Now, ploughing of land along the contour in a parallel way. Now, ridges and trough, that's furrows, run along the contour. So along this contour, you have a ridge here. Let me change the color because it seems similar. You have a ridge here. Then you have a trough here, a ridge here, and a trough here, parallel along the contour. Now, each furrows, that's each trough, hold water and prevent large torrent of water running down the slope. So each of these troughs that act like a mini valley holds the water. So water will not be able to run down the slope because the ridge will block it like an embankment. Now, preventing the formation of gullies and runoff of topsoil is useful for a gradient of slopes, for all gradients, sorry. It's useful for all gradients, so whether it is steep or gentle, it's useful for it. So we also have bunds for soil erosion. So these are bunds. So these are artificial banks at the edges of growing space to hold back water. So this will help to hold back water, so therefore hold back soil to not erode it. Now it's useful for crops that require moist soil, example are rice. The water is retained on the terrace, so it increases the quality and fertility of the soil. Another way of to prevent soil erosion is windbreaks. Windbreaks, which is a permeable barrier used to reduce the impact of wind on an area. So if you look at this diagram here, you have crops, then you have tree in different stratas. So these three normally help to reduce the impact of wind, so they act as wind breaks. In this second diagram here, you find you have your plants in here, you can cultivate here, then in between you have tree crops here that helps to also prevent which act as windbreak to prevent the impact of wind on the crop. So you find out that without windbreak, the soil is eroded away. So soil structure like walls, fence with wind into and the wind into smaller spaces, increasing wind speed and causing eddy current. So premature structure like vegetation allows some wind to pass through, decreasing its speed and thus the amount of wind erosion. So advantage of windbreak: additional habitat for beneficial insects like the trees. So roots of the windbreak prevent soil due to runoff. So the roots of this windbreak will also prevent the washing away of the soil. Therefore, also still further prevent soil erosion. Next is maintaining vegetation cover. So sowing legumes immediately after a crop has been harvested prevents soil erosion. Sowing legumes immediately after a crop has been harvested prevent soil erosion. Now, it also provides more nitrogen to the soil, therefore increasing the soil fertility for the next major crops. Now, when cultivating, the legumes can be simply plowed. So you see effect of vegetation in minimizing erosion. So the plants, vegetation absorb energy of falling rains through interception. Now, ground cover covers the ground, so it also prevents surface runoff and therefore washing away of the soil. Now, vegetation help to maintain the absorptive capacity, so it slow the velocity of runoff and act as a filter to catch sediment. So this is also an important of major importance of maintaining vegetative cover in terms of soil erosion, because the soil is not usually exposed in this case, so you cannot easily wash them off. No dig method as a process of controlling soil erosion. So you have this cultivated farm here. You find out that they did not dig the farm, so no dig method. You didn't dig it. You just go there and to plant your seed, or in this case, you find out that they added things like organic manures here, organic fertilizers, and they cultivate or plant the seed in these organic fertilizers here without altering the soil structure. Now, existing vegetation is left until the new crop is grown. Rather than cultivating the soil, herbicides are applied to kill the weed. So once the herbicide kill the weed, roots of the existing vegetation bind the soil until the major plant is established. Risk: herbicide reduce buildup. If the control of the cover vegetation is ineffective, it may compete with the main crop weed. So because you use herbicide here, you find out that these ones have died out because of the herbicides. Now, if the herbicide if it's not properly done, this herbicide can actually grow back and compete with the main plant itself. Now, addition of organic matter to improve soil structure. This helps to provide additional air gaps in the soil, which help to improve soil structure, increases decomposers in the soil as they feed on the organic matter, add nutrient to the soil after decomposition, acts like a sponge, therefore holding the extra water, preventing dehydration of the soil, reduces soil erosion as the organic matter acts like a base to smaller particles. Now, planting trees. So rows of trees act as windbreak. We've looked at that earlier. Now, tree canopy can provide shade for smaller plants that don't thrive for sunlight. Provide a natural habitat for animals that feed on pests. And three, leaves fall to the ground and add organic matter to it. And therefore, it further reduces soil erosion because it compacts the soil, it covers the soil, it acts as interception. So water and wind will not have direct contact with the soil. So mixed cropping. I think this should be the last method to control soil erosion. Mixed cropping, growing more than one type of plants in the same area. That's mixed cropping. Mixed cropping is different from mixed farming. Mixed farming when you grow both crop and rear animal on the same plot of land. But mixed cropping has to do with growing more than one type of plant in the same area. So resources in the soil, like nutrients, are used more efficiently. And you find out that the soil is quite more covered. So little risk of soil erosion. Intercropping, when you have rows of different crop are grown between the rows of the main crop. So if you have rows of the main crop here, you now have different crops, another crop growing in rows beside it. Now, this maximizes the use of space and other resources. So it helps to cover the soil entirely, majorly, and therefore also reduces soil erosion. So another method is crop rotation. Crop rotation is when you cultivate different crops in different seasons on the same plot of land. So you see, like here, you first have root crops. Then the next season you cultivate potato and things like tomato. Then the next season you cultivate legumes, pea, broad beans, fresh beans. They contain brassicas like cabbage, cauliflower, and the rest. So in different year, different crops, you rotate it. And this helps to improve the soil structure, maintain the soil fertility, and also reduces soil erosion. So lastly, we look at sustainable agriculture. So what is the aim of sustainable agriculture? So the aim of sustainable agriculture is simple. It has to do with meeting the need of the population for agricultural products, making efficient use of non-renewable resources, supporting the natural ecosystem by following natural process with farming techniques, sustaining the economic independence of farmer. So this is sustainable agriculture. This is the aim of sustainable agriculture. It has to do with meeting the need of the population for agricultural products, making efficient use of non-renewable resources, supporting the natural ecosystem by following natural processes with farming techniques, and sustaining the economic independence of farmers. Now, strategies used by farmers for sustainable agriculture. So first is organic fertilizers. If you don't understand what this means, you can check the part 2 of the video. Organic fertilizers should be added to the soil. So crop residues and manures are examples. Manage grazing, livestock rotation to help reduce, manage the way in which they feed on the soil, they feed on the vegetation, so they will not lead to deforestation or further lack of vegetation within the area that will eventually lead to soil erosion. So they should also encourage crop rotation, use of pest-resistant and drought-resistant varieties so that you will not have to be spraying pesticide and insecticide, and also a weed-resistant variety plant so that you'll not be using herbicide, which eventually will affect the biodiversity, affect the food chain and on the long run. So you should use trickle drip irrigational system, and also encourage rainwater harvesting. And these are strategies for sustainable agriculture. So explaining each of these strategies now, when we have to do with organic fertilizers, as you can see, so A are slow acting, therefore it reduces the risk of eutrophication. Are waste products, therefore using them save uh, disposal cost. Are already present on many farms, therefore minimal transport costs, do not require energy for their manufacture, and it also helps to improve soil structure. So manage grazing, just want to explain this too. So you see, you have this plot here, so the animals can actually be kept on this first plot for them to feed on the vegetation here. Once they are done, you move them to this vegetation. So before they'll be done with this vegetation, you find out that this is now replenished. So they'll keep moving from one vegetation. So before they get back to this starting point, you find out that the vegetation is now has been replenished from the grazing before they move. So this is just a technique you can use to manage grazing. So prevention of overgrazing, ensure sufficient grazing, Maintaining appropriate soil fertility by animal waste, and maintaining good drainage prevent compaction of soil. So other methods has to do with crop rotation, use of pest-resistant varieties, use of drought-resistant varieties, use of herbicide-resistant varieties of crops, trickle drip irrigation, and rainwater harvesting. This has to do with the collection of rainwater, for example, from the roof of buildings, and its storage in a tank or reservoir for later use. So this is just an example of how you harvest rainwater, and all this help to improve sustainable agriculture. So, thank you. We're done with this topic on agriculture and its environment. You can actually subscribe, and so that you get quick and swift notification on once we